entertainment, current events, and Hollywood. Don't miss Creator to Creators, hosted by the filmmaker Meosha Bean, known for the Shudder hit documentary Horror Noir and the acclaimed film Anatomy of an Anti-Hero, Redemption. This show features interviews with filmmakers and creatives from around the globe. Join the fun with guest celebrities and gain valuable insights. Subscribe now and follow Creator to Creators.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Creators to Creators Today. Today we have a special guest.
Jared Faber.
Welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here and talk to you.
Same. Nice to finally meet you. I checked out your work. I mean, wow, your resume is impeccable. It's amazing. You have a lot of stuff. But I love going back to the beginning, just briefly. I just find it interesting, like the things that we pick up along the way as we're children that kind of follow us into our adulthood. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. What was that like? And then kind of how did you find your way into doing the things that you're doing now?
How did I? I grew up in New York City, and I had the good fortune of getting to go to high school of performing arts. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I don't know that my young childhood is super relevant. But around high school is when I figured out that music was the thing. You know, when it hit me that was like really the only thing that I truly cared about. And but the thing is, in order to get into the high school of performing arts, particularly for the music department, you have to have some skill, and I really didn't yet have the skill. And that school, which is it's the school that the movie Fame and series Fame was based on and everything. And
Nice.
you have different departments there, and you can't just take a little of everything. You're supposed to be in a major. You're supposed to be there because you have a specific direction. And so, although at the time that I was trying to get in there, music was already really interesting to me. As I said, I wasn't like a classically trained musician. I didn't have much of a jazz background. I was just strumming a guitar and picking out chords and trying to figure out how to play songs that I liked. And I auditioned for several majors just to try to get into the school, and I wound up getting into the drama department as an actor.
Wow.
Which I had no interest in whatsoever. But I wanted to go to the school.
Yeah.
But I tell that story because I feel like it really led me down the path of where I'm at, because ultimately the majority of my career is writing music for film and TV, and oftentimes working with actors, working with, directors, writers, executive producers of shows, and, figuring out how to be part of, telling the story and pushing the narrative forward with music. And so I think that was relevant. And it was also just relevant in terms of like socially and who the people that I wound up connecting with there were. And it really took me, it's really still part of my path and my story today, I think.
I love that. It's so cool. That's so cool. That like would you say that you're living your purpose and you found your purpose?
My purpose. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't, that feels lofty, but
yeah,
I would say that I'm living the fantasy of what I'd hoped my life and job and career could be in that sense. I mean, anybody, and you talk to people all the time who do this. So anyone you talk to, and you yourself know that the reality is different than the fantasy.
Yeah.
The fantasy is amazing all the time. But like, I come down into my studio every day, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I've had plenty of time to be to grow jaded and cynical.
Yeah.
But there's never a day that I don't walk into my studio and go like, yo, this is bananas. Like, because when I was a kid, I was just like, you know, you couldn't imagine where it could come from. I didn't know people. My parents were not connected to anything in the entertainment industry. I didn't know anyone who did music for a living.
Yeah.
Those that I started to meet, um, yeah, they did it differently. I started to meet people who were, maybe teachers or, um, yeah, eventually you start to meet people because I was seeking them out, but it was always, that was crazy to me. Even when I was a kid and I would meet anyone who was like just, playing local gigs, but making a living, putting food on their table for their family, making music. I was like, that's crazy. I want to do that. I totally want to do that. And I didn't really know where that was going to go.
I
So as
love
far
that.
as like, am I living my purpose? Like, I don't know if is it my, like, purpose feels really like, that feels grand, but as far as what I had aspired to do, which was just to be able to like have instruments and do nothing but music, that's what I do. So
I
that's
love
still
that.
kind of wild to me.
Isn't it interesting? Like, and it all starts with just a step forward into that direction, and you just never know where everything else. Like, I never thought I'd be a
100%.
host, but my mom would, when I was a kid, my mom would say, "Well, you get it honest. You have the gift of gab," and I say, yeah, I get it from my dad, and I got to use it for a good reason somehow. So it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny how everything kind of plays a part in our lives. It's
Mhm.
I just find that very interesting. So I really, first of all, really cool background. I see all the instruments. That's so
Oh,
cool.
oh, thank yeah, gotta
I'm
have
just, it's
my
so
toys
cool.
around me.
I love it. I love it. Um, the process, right, of composing a score, and how do you begin, and like, what are the steps that you take to align, with the visuals? How do you do that? Like, what does that look like?
Usually it starts with conversations with the other creative people in charge, the creative people whose vision you're trying to uh, help fulfill, because my job is, it's to serve someone else, to serve the project, the greater project. But usually there's, whether it's, in TV, it might be an executive producer, in film, it might be a director, whoever it is who's directing the overall vision. Just start out by just trying to get on the same page, try to understand their aesthetic, what they like musically. Some people are super musically oriented and they know what they like stylistically, or they know what they see for the project. Some people don't. Some people, they work from a more subtractive point of view, right? They know, oh, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's that,
Right.
But some people go in and they're like, they have an idea for what they want it to be like. Um, a lot of times over the years, I've had sort of some handful of like regular collaborators, people who I work with all the time. And so
Nice.
that's always helpful. We have a shorthand, and hopefully they're continuing to work with me because they feel like we're on the same page, and that I get them, I get what they want. Um,
I love that.
so yeah, that's where it starts, and then just trying to create a sound, just create I think of it from the standpoint, like a more traditional composer, I think, might really come from the standpoint of like writing themes and,
Mm,
melodically. But I think in terms of sound, like, how do I want this to sound? What's the overall feel? Is it, are we going for something in a particular genre or a particular, is it a musical style? Is it a sonic thing?
mm.
Um, or are we going to do something traditional and, start with themes? And but even that, it's like, what is a theme? Like, it doesn't work to me, like, I don't work from the standpoint of like, well, let me show you something on the piano and see if you
Yeah.
like that theme. It's like, now you gotta have to hear it. Like, am I creating it with drums? Am I creating it with sound? Am I creating with synthesizers? Is it orchestra? Is it an acoustic guitar? Like, I can't just sort of sketch it and say, do you like this theme? So
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that answer that?
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
don't know if that's confusing or helpful.
It's
Not
definitely
like I'm
helpful. And no, I just so curious because I just think it's so cool. Like, I just love to be a fly on the wall just to see what your process is like and what your day is like. A day in the life of what it looks like of a composer. Like, I just think that was so interesting. Um, like especially with the amazing success of the Tiny Chef show. It's so funny. I actually, speaking of that, I don't know how I ran across it. I think it was either on Instagram or something. I seen a clip and I just thought, what is this? And I think one clip led into like, I just kept scrolling and
of
more
Tiny
clips.
Chef. Tiny Chef is a thing, man,
It's
on
a
Instagram.
thing. Like,
Oh my
it's holy
God.
crap. What is
when
this?
when when Tiny Chef was first introduced to me, um, my buddy Eric Casimiro, who was at Nickelodeon, he called me and he said, "We have this project called Tiny Chef, and could use some musical help. If you have the time, I'd love for you to come in and check it out and see if it's something you'd be interested in working on." Which, by the way, even that on its own is such an amazing way to get brought into something versus a very common other direction, which is just like a sort of cattle call where a brief is going out to 4,000 composers and but and again, that's what I mean about people who I've worked with for years, who I feel like we have a back and forth, we have a language. But anyway, Eric, he brings it up to me, he says, just go check it out. And I start looking it up on Instagram and on YouTube, and I call him up. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you asking me if I would want to do this?" I was like, "This is the craziest thing ever." I was like, "This is a gift. Yes, I'm happy to be part of it. This thing is so silly. It's so well done. It's
It
so yeah." And to what you were asking before about how you create a sound, like for me, I was like, well, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, the Tiny Chef is this small little stop motion animation chef who's just a tiny little guy, and everything in it is made really small, and like his frying pans are made out of the top of a bottle cap, and everything is tiny. So it seemed pretty obvious to me that I wanted to make the the score sound small, not overly and everything sounds really tactile, or everything
Mhm.
looks really tactile. Like you could, like I said, like the bottle cap, and everything is handmade. It's not digital. It's literally crafted by people with their hands,
So
and
cool.
and so I was like, I want the music to sound like that. I want to try my best to like just make it sound like you can hear hands on it. So
Wow.
I started out doing it that way, just using small instruments. The creator of Tiny Chef very much like bluegrass music and had a bluegrass idea for it, so I tried to incorporate as much of that as possible. And but sometimes it was just like taking little small percussion instruments that are here and there and everywhere around my studio,
I
and
love it.
you know tapping on a stool with some drumsticks, or
Love
just
that.
things to just make small sound.
I love that. No, it's brilliant. Like, I mean, just the fact that, that you created that character in that world, that sound, it's just it's like it's its own unique sound. Like no one can like when you watch it, it's like I don't see anything else that's like Tiny Chef Show. Like
No,
it's
it's
just
got a
its
thing, and yeah, I
thing.
try to do that with the music, right? Where I hope that
Yeah.
that it has a sort of a fingerprint, or that as soon as you hear it, like you would any of your favorite shows or films, you recognize them from a few notes of a theme or whatever, or a score.
Yeah, no, it's so cool how you did that, and I mean it's just brilliant. I mean, and also I just really love the idea of like it's like with plant-based stuff as well. It's like, of
Yeah,
course,
they
this is
don't
so good.
really, yeah, they don't really like hit you over the head with it, in that like he never talks about it. He never specifically says that he's a vegan or that, but all of his recipes are vegan. And whenever he references, you know, milk or cheese or butter, it's always almond milk, or, some kind of, nut cheese, or yeah.
I love that. That is so cool. I was gonna, oh, and also, I mean, congratulations. I think it was submitted to it was like a children, like the Emmys or something like
Yeah,
that.
we are working on that. It's a they're submitting it, and we'll see what happens. We'll
I'm
see where
sure
we go with that.
it's gonna be amazing. And I'm sure it's gonna be great. Like again, like I said, I watched one video and then I just could not stop. It was like I just had to. I was like, I don't know, what this little guy is so cute.
Yeah,
He's
he's
just
hilarious.
so cute. um, I was gonna ask you, like, how do you approach your like collaborations with other directors and animators? Like, like how do for instance, like share like their inputs and that influences your composition or whatever. Like, just how do you approach it?
Um, Beyond what I've said, I guess, as far as like just trying to figure out what people like.
Are there times that you have like differences and then you have to come to like a
Sure,
and
sure,
how do you like those solving those like kind of those problems? Like I'm sure no one like I'm sure everyone doesn't really see eye to eye all the time. And then there's deadlines, right? I would assume.
sure, sure. Yeah, this was hopefully we sort of iron out the broader aesthetic concepts early on as far
Yeah.
as like what establishing a sound, like
Yeah.
so that when as you're working and you start getting notes and requests for revisions, you know hopefully most of them are more along the lines of let's play this, maybe they have a direction for something they want played in a certain way, and maybe I made a different choice,
Mm,
like let's play this more genuinely sad as opposed to humorous,
gotcha.
because especially in cartoons where sometimes things are a little bit both, right? If he has like a little sad moment but also silly things are happening, well, you could
Yeah.
make a choice. So someone might say, they may choose for me to move a little more in one direction or another, or choose for something more a technical note, like can we play this longer, or let's get out before he closes the door and says I'm
Mm,
through, or whatever.
yeah.
um the broader aesthetic stuff, I guess, to be honest, I haven't uh I haven't butt heads too much on that stuff, because I
That's
think
good.
that if you don't land that stuff, you kind of don't have the gig. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like they're 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 picking you, sort of based on that.
Gotcha.
Um, but I mean, I'm sure that sometimes it's not true. I mean, I'm just trying to think about it. It was interesting on Tiny Chef because we started the first season and we did a short season of that show, and then they got picked up for a full season, and they changed the entire production crew
Oh.
between, and new executive producers came in, and I'm one of the few people who didn't get changed up, that I was on the first season and continued with the show. And so that, I think, was a little bit challenging, because
Mm,
the producers that came in, uh, I don't know how familiar, I don't want to say they weren't familiar with the first season, but they hadn't worked on the first season. So I didn't have I had felt like I had already established a sound, because I
okay.
had already done, you know, 8 episodes of it, because it was a short season, but 8 was enough to, in my opinion, we established a sound that I kept trying to go with. And I think it ultimately was fine. And I think I got along great with everybody. And I think they liked what we did. But I can say that I think there was like, it was probably a little bit of there was a learning curve, right? Like they weren't used to it. We hadn't had the discussion about
Yeah.
what I'm doing, or, like I was just running with it like I've been doing it, because from my point of view, I had been doing it. But from their point of view, they were starting fresh,
Mm, okay.
you know?
Gotcha.
Um, but there wasn't really time to go back. There are deadlines, as you know. And so it's like,
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like I bet that's kind of like so challenging sometimes. But I mean, you've done so many amazing projects. I mean, your resume is amazing. So it's like, I guess you just know how to like, you work really well under pressure, I guess, if that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's stressful. It's certainly stressful, you know. Okay, I didn't remember. Here's one thing I remember about that is that there was one particular instrument that I had chosen.
Yeah.
I started getting notes every time I had a particular piece of music that had this instrument in it. And I was like, why are they noting that? Why? It just turns out that one of the producers didn't like the sound of that instrument and didn't think it was a good for the palette.
I see.
And at first I pushed back. I was like, that's part of the sound. That was you know, but then I quickly sort of realized that there was no, it wasn't really helpful to anyone except for maybe me to push back. Just move on and don't use that instrument and everything else. You know what I mean? So
Everything else works out.
what's that?
It's like, I can just move on. Everything else works out fine. It's fine. It's like, you have
Yeah,
to
it's like, well,
let
just don't use that instrument and then you won't get that note.
go.
And so that's what I did.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No, I just so curious. I just find it interesting. Like, I know how it is. Like, like I love, I just did a project, as far as like on set, and I was ADing. I was helping a friend of mine. He hired me to, assistant direct him, and
Mhm.
it was just, it was our first time working together. We were on a deadline, very crunch time, long hours,
Yeah.
but it was just I really thrive in like under pressure for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, I just wonder how that looks like in your world. And that's very interesting.
Well, like, I mean, you're there and everybody has a job to do, and you're hopefully all trying to row in the same direction.
Yeah.
And hopefully, um, hopefully there's some trust,
Hmm.
right? I think that's where it really lands, right? Like, if people trust everybody to do their own job, you can really you can get some work done quickly.
Definitely.
I mean, look, you know this. You're working on all kinds of projects. It's not always easy. It's not always that way, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, you try.
You definitely try.
You
Well, yeah.
try not to get personal about things, right? Like to not take things personally. You're just like, you know, it's hard, right? Because you're bringing your whole self to it, right?
Right.
Like we said from the beginning when you asked about like where started out, and it's like all I cared about was music, right? And
Yeah.
it's like music matters so much to me. And maybe if I even roll it back to like some, on sort of an emotional thing of like I said, like I didn't have the skills. I mean, we're talking about eighth grade, but whatever. In the eighth grade, I didn't have the skills to go to the school in the way that I wanted to, and kind of backdoored it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And like, so to this day, right? Like everything I'm putting out there, like there's so much wrapped up in it, right? Like I'm
Mm.
like, if someone doesn't like it, it feels very personal,
Mm.
right? And you're
Mhm.
like, I swear I'm good. But the other side of it is that if is that you have to realize that it's really not personal. You are doing a job, and I always say that like if I'm working on, specifically when it's music for visual media, TV, film, it's not my project, it's someone else's. It's
Yeah.
like someone else is the architect and I am whatever, like the electrician or the plumber. It's like I'm not going to tell you where to put the like I'm going to put the plumbing in wherever you tell me to.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not my job to say I think it should be over here, I think we should have a sink over here. It's not my job, I'm not the architect.
Right.
you know so if I'm doing a record, if I'm doing music that's just for music, then I can make those decisions. The project, is the main creative force can be me in that context. But music for TV and film, no matter how much I love the project, no matter how much I put into the music, at the end of the day, it is not my project. It's someone else's, and I'm there to serve them.
I love that.
So I got to try to take it's hard. I got to try to take the ego out of it, which is
Mm-hmm.
ultimately the thing that's getting bruised if someone doesn't like a direction, doesn't like a particular piece of music, thinks a choice didn't work, asks you to do it again.
Yeah.
Ego is a big part of it. Obviously, there's the convenience of it as well, right? Someone is asking you to work more when you might like to be having dinner.
Yeah. Be with the family. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's the life we chose, right? But you love
100%.
it. But
Yes.
you love it. And I think that's what keeps us going. I have a really fun question. And there's no wrong answer, but I love asking this question. But the three levels of influence: money, power, and respect. And if you
I
could choose only
heard you
one of those things.
asking someone that the other day, and I was
Which
listening to
one?
who are you talking to? And this dude was just like, money. I'll take money.
Hey, it's honest. It's honest,
I know. Wait. Ask me again. Let me see exactly what is the context of this. What
Okay, the three levels of influence: money,
influence?
power, and
Hmm.
respect. And if you could choose only one, which one would you choose and why?
This is actually, I think it's a pretty tough question. I can very quickly cross power off the list. That's not really, I'm not really in the game of power. Um, I think probably speaking to everything we're just talking about, respect really kind of matters,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think even the most, no, you don't go into music for money, you
Mm,
know? Um, I don't think there was ever a time, and obviously like entertainment and music in particular has changed so much as far as the economics of it. But I don't think there was ever a time where if your main goal was money, that music would be uh, the choice.
yeah.
Um, but it'd be hard to choose nowadays, right? You got
That,
responsibilities.
yeah.
I can eat on money.
Yeah. It's a it's an
Respect is sort of
interesting
neither here nor there. It's that's sort of that's in a way that's sort of an ego thing, right?
thing. Right. Right.
Right?
Very
Like I need to know that people think a certain thing. No, I don't. I guess I don't need that.
yeah.
You'd like to believe. It's tough.
I think though, I think it's yeah, I think if you're doing the thing like okay, what you're doing and the work you're putting out, I think the people that you work with, like your peers, they respect you. I don't think I never really looked at it like I need respect from people. Like I don't go through life thinking I want you guys to like I just think it's just silly. Like either some people will or will not. And
Right.
that's just their decision, really. I think as long as you live your life and lead, your life to the best of your ability, I think that's all you can do, really.
I think when you say it, it's like respect, like almost to me, it's like it's almost connected to the ability to keep working, though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when you're one of those people that people respect, then people want to work with you. People want to listen to what you're doing. They want to see your projects,
Yeah.
right? That's how I think of it, not in like some sort of um like I don't know what's in people's heads about me or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
What
interesting.
about you? So what are you gonna take? Power, respect,
I take
money?
money. I take money because I think for me, if I had more of it, I can do more things, creatively. I can help um things. Be a change. I think it takes money to do anything in this world sadly, like you have to have it, in order to move any type of needle, creatively, because it takes so much money to make a movie. Um, yeah, more of it would help.
And creative freedom, right? Like to just be able to do whatever you want to do. Look, I'll
Exactly.
be honest. I think I'm 100% with you. I just didn't want to be like money. Come on, bring it.
Yeah. definitely. I understand. I totally get it. I totally get it though. No, that was a great answer though. Great answer. I loved your answer. I really like how you think about it. It's
It
very
definitely wasn't what I was going for when I started out, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. That's good. What do you do like to like on your downtime? Like what is like a chill day for you without working? Do you like, do you decompress? How do you decompress? Do you like turn social media off? Do you
Oh,
relax?
that's a thing? You can do that?
I know, right? I'm trying. I'm actually learning how to do it. It's
Man,
really hard.
I got the timer so that I can only look at Instagram. I set my screen time thing,
That's
but then
good.
it just makes it so that I'm like, uh, constantly like just asking it for more time.
I actually got to do that. I need to learn how to like take breaks. It's really hard. It's really hard. Balancing it all is, family, friends, social life, work.
It's
It's,
crazy.
it's
I do find the
really,
phone to be problematic because I find that like I'm constantly searching for something in there, whether it's, and to be honest, it feels like it's always connected to work, but that's not really
yeah,
true.
right.
Like
Right.
if I'm scrolling Instagram, I'm not trying, I don't like consciously, I'm not trying to entertain myself. I'm like, I got to see what's happening. Like, what are people doing? Is anyone working on a project? Did anyone reach out to me? You know what I mean? Like, but then you're like, and then like I said, I have the timer set up. Then the timer goes on. I'm like, it just told me I looked at it for 20 minutes. I'm like, what did 20 minutes? 20 minutes? What did I look at? And I'm like, what does
Yeah.
this guy hugging a bear have to do with me looking for work or getting inspired by someone's music?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah, social media. It is a
terrible.
yeah, it's good and bad. It's definitely yeah, 100%.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's some great, there's some great possibilities, and the, being able to reach people, and yeah, I mean, I mean, I've had some really good interactions and good feedback off of things that I don't have like a big social media following, but like I've definitely sort of gotten into a flow here and there where I was posting, and then all of a sudden people are reaching out to me, and
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it's like generating business, but it just sort of like it generated energy or
Mm-hmm.
reminded, I don't know, it keeps you connected with some people. Yeah, we know, we all know the pros and
Definitely.
cons, but it's a slippery slope for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we get to meet people and talk to people like you, like what like we're doing right now. It's just a wonderful tool as well, just to like you said, energy exchange, and it's great. Where can people find you on social media to follow you?
Well, Instagram is really the only thing I'm using these days,
Okay.
sort of for
Nice.
various reasons over all of the rest of them. Um, so it's my name, Jared Faber,
Nice. Nice.
on Instagram.
Love
And
it.
yeah, as to the question you asked about what do I do to decompress or downtime, I got a family, and I
Love that.
therefore don't decompress. No, I hang with them, and sort of, hang with my little girl and
Oh,
do fun things.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's a great thing. Being with family. Family is great. It definitely reminds you of like what's important, outside of what we do. It's a great thing. Thank you so much for coming on. It was just so
Oh,
lovely
thank you.
talking
Yeah,
to
this
you.
was it was awesome to talk to you. Nice to meet you.
You too. Nice to
Good.
meet you too. And we'll connect on social media.
Also, I am following you now as of the
Oh,
past couple of
cool.
days. So
Okay, I'll follow you
yeah.
back. I didn't know. Cool. Well, thank
Awesome.
you again. And thank you all for listening. And always remember to live, love, laugh. We'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.